Okay.
So when it goes live, if you want to share it with anybody, please feel free to do so. I'll do the same.
Okay.
So let's see if it's coming up then. Right. Right, hang on now. So that's a nice clear picture. So it says it's now live on Facebook, so it should be coming up on our sites now, hopefully.
Excellent.
Yes, there we are. It's working. So I'll now share this with some bits and pieces. So share now publicly. Technology, I could do with some sort of Atlantean help, really, for this technology.
Maybe you need an assistant.
Yeah. Oh, God. Right, so that's that one done. Let me just do another one, share.
I'm going to see if I can get it into a couple of groups, too.
Okay.
Where do you post to?
Well, I've just posted that to my one first. I'm going to post now to the Freedom Network, to Solar G.
Okay, I put mine in. Did you do the Galactic Federation of Light?
No, not normally.
All right, I'll go in there.
Okay.
Couple of groups too.
Okay.
Where do you post to? Ooh, there's a delay.
Well, I've just posted that to my one first. I'm going to post now to Freedom to Solar G.
Okay, I put mine in. Did you do the Galactic Federation of Light?
No, not normally.
All right, I'll go in there.
It's great.
No, I think I have to go. I have to go off so that
where do you post to?
We don't have an echo.
I posted that to my one first. Okay, we'll get there. They're used to this with me anyway, so let me see. Right. 3 comments. So there's people already sending rude remarks.
Oh no!
No, they're not. I'm only joking. Right, share to a page, write a post. Okay, so we'll do that one. Write a post, and then I can do your timeline. No, group. Here we go. I'm getting there now. Solar G, Ameera, and me. That's the first one. Not quite as polished as Todd Medina, but you know.
It takes practice, and that kid's had a lot of practice.
Hasn't he just? You can tell it in his face. I hope he's watching this. Let me just do one more and then we'll get going, eh?
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Share. Oh, hang on, I've got oh God. May the Lord have mercy on my soul. There we are. One more for good luck. Right, post. And we'll go to a group, and we'll go to the Freedom Network. There we are.
Hey, and how about that full moon yesterday?
Yeah, it's certainly, there's lots and lots of stuff happening. I don't really understand horoscopes and all this, so I'm relying on you to sort of fill me in with these things, really.
Okay, I'll do the best I can.
Okay, me too. Ameera, I think we're on, so thanks very much for coming along. And I've read the information that you've sent me, and it's very interesting, and it corresponds with lots of the stuff that I'm interested in my life as well. Although you use different words, I'm really sort of linked into the mother in all forms, or the divine feminine. And since I was a child, I've always had this image of the pure, perfect divine feminine. It's guided me all my life. I've not known this until I've got older, and I've sort of cleaned my act up a bit. But I noticed that, you know, it's the ocean mother goddess, Yemaya.
Yeah.
You know, and about 15 years ago, I was drawn to a book on something called candomblé. you know, and they talk about orishas. It's a Brazilian religion, and they talk about orishas, you know, and they spent a lot of time, and I was very interested in it. They spent a lot of time talking about the orisha that was the mother goddess, you know.
Right.
And immediately my heart opened, you know, and so I looked a lot more into it. And I know candomblé was associated, or it is associated with the Roman Catholic side as well. There's a parallel that goes on there, you know. And I was brought up, and from an early age, I went away to train to be a priest. And so I was heavily influenced by Roman Catholicism. But especially,
I was raised Roman Catholic also.
Yeah, but I was sort of guided from an early age. I was sent away at the age of 11 years of age, and I was terrified every single night and kept seeing visions coming through the windows and things. So in the end, I didn't stay there too long. I just had to get back to my mum, you know. But that's where I'm sort of coming from. You know, there's lots of similarities. I do feel that in a sort of a way, the Atlantean side, I'm more inclined towards Lemuria for some reason. I don't know whether you can, you know, Atlantis seems to me to be cold, and it seems to be masculine, and Lemuria seems to resonate more with the mother. So I don't know whether I'm getting mixed up there, but perhaps you could enlighten me on some of these things.
Well, there is some truth to what you're saying. Atlantis is the masculine. It holds the masculine energy, and Lemuria holds the feminine. So that part, there's a lot of truth in that part. And when people think about, you know, Atlantis and Lemuria, sometimes people have really strong opinions about Atlantis, and you described it as cold and the masculine energy, and kind of perceive it as like a bad thing, or have these preconceived notions that, you know, the Atlanteans were, you know, these beings who became technologically advanced and full of ego, and kind of caused the downfall of all humanity, including the Lemurians. And there is threads of truth that are within that is part of the storyline, but it's not the entire storyline. It's not the entire narrative or the entire truth. The Atlantean, so if there's a part of us that is rejecting the Atlantean story, the Atlantean narrative, that might be the part of us that is masculine, that is needing the nurturing and the healing.
Yeah.
Because anything that we reject or view as, you know, we don't want to look at it, or we think that it's bad, that's a reflection of something in us that's really looking to heal. And that's part of why I'm here. That's part of why I am on Lemuria. Kauai is the heart of Lemuria. It's the heart of the Lemurian civilization. Mama Kauai, if any of you have ever been here, this land, you don't have to do anything but show up on this land, and she begins to do her work on you, which sometimes feels very, very nice, and sometimes doesn't feel very, very nice. Yeah. Because where there is healing to be had, there is pain to be felt.
Right. Oh no, it makes a lot of sense to me. I think when I said cold about the Atlantean energy, I felt more, how can I explain it? It's more getting work done, really. It's the masculine, it's the yang, you know, it's the yang energy that goes out and gets the work done. So I see it linked to the left brain, you know, the left linear logical brain. And I think what people tend to do, this is just my opinion, is they tend to sort of say that that's bad. But in my view, in any divine relationship, it's the yin and the yang, and the masculine and feminine working in harmony and in coherence with one another.
Yeah.
Now, all my life, I've been quite a sensitive child, still am, you know, and I feel that the energy from the cosmos comes in through our right brain in a waveform, and then it crosses over in like, if you like, an analog digital computer, and then it particularizes then in the left brain. And so I see all this going on in an infinity symbol all the time, you know.
Right, yes, the infinity symbol, exactly.
Yeah. And another thing that, you know, I love about your stuff is, and the stuff that you're talking about now, is the 13th chakra. Because again, along with the mother energy that I've had, the number 12 has been massive in my life, you know, and I've not known this until recently, you know, but it's all starting to fall into place now. But I always got the 13th sort of chakra. And to me, that resonates with the Christ center or self-mastery. And so where I see that is the heart with its 12 petals, if you like, to me, that's associated with the nervous system and the meridian system, and it goes on then in 12s, you know. And in my mind, right, I can see all these groups of 12s forming together right across the planet until we link back together and form one big sort of coherent ideal world. Does that make any sense, or am I just going mad again?
No, you're making perfect sense in my world.
Oh, thank God for that. Yeah, I don't talk to many people like this, you know. And in fact, a lot of my academic colleagues, you know, they wonder what the hell's going on, but I'm not holding anything back anymore, you know. I'm just sort of, I'm trying to get it out there. And I do try and bring it across in a scientific way, you know, because I can sort of get the 7 chakras in and talk about the nervous system. But anything more than that, they tend to sort of walk away and close down a bit, really.
Right.
But, you know, early days. So can you shed a bit of light on, you know, your teachings regarding the 13th chakra?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've said so much already that's really in alignment with what I teach. And I'm going to teach a class on Sunday called Activate Your 13th Chakra Template. It's an Atlantean course on self-healing, and I'm going to go really, really deeply into what we're going to touch upon today, where, you know, for eons, humans we've been taught about the 7 energy centers, taught about our 7 chakras. When that information really started coming out to the collective, you know, as we all started to awaken and learn about our body as energy, it was a really good jumping off point for all of us to learn about our energy centers and our chakras from root to crown, and how to open them, how to work with them, what they mean, what chakras we needed healing, all of that. It was a very good jumping off point. And so it's kind of like being in, you know, elementary school. And in elementary school, you start out with the basics. We, as humanity, we have grown and evolved leaps and bounds over decades since these teachings really started to become common with healers and teachers. And we are more than ready to take the knowledge of our body as energy and the knowledge of ourself as, you know, human angels to the next echelon. And we are ready to start acknowledging and working with our 13 chakra template. We have 13 major chakras, from the Earth Star, which is down beneath the feet. That's actually the first energy center in the human aura, to the stellar gateway, or the infinite gateway, I like to talk it, which is number 12 at the top. Right. So we have all these energy centers, extra 6 beyond what most of us are taught, or what most of us learn about. The 13th chakra, and Spirit started talking about the 13th chakra years ago. Mm-hmm. I just got this intuition that I first started learning about the 12 through Diana Cooper. Do you know who Diana Cooper is? No. She's a very famous English writer and angel connector. She wrote a book called Discover Atlantis, and I read that maybe 14 years ago when I was kind of newly awakening, and her writings really awakened me to myself as an Atlantean being, and helped kind of set me on the course of where I'd be going with this work. And she talked about the 12 chakras in the human aura field. And so as I began to feel into spirit for myself and teach people about the 12 chakras, Spirit kind of adjusted a little bit about the teachings and how I was to bring it through, and kind of the placements and things, you know, because we all develop through our own channel and our own intuition. So I kind of fine-tuned those teachings and made them my own. And then Spirit began to talk about the 13th chakra many years ago. Now, 12 is a very auspicious number in the collective. We have 2 sets of 12-hour days, right? We have 12 months in a calendar year, 12 tribes of Israel written in the Bible. So 12 is a very, very auspicious number. It's a number of completion. When we hit 12, we start over again at 1. Okay. So as we acknowledge like the power and the energy of numbers, and everything is math, everything is geometry, right?
Yeah.
Everything breaks down to numbers. I started receiving the message that we were going beyond our ability to embrace our 12 chakras, even though most people didn't even know about the 12 at the time. I've been teaching 12 chakras, 13 chakras for many years. And Spirit started talking to me about, you know, we are on the brink of the rise of the metahuman currently.
Yeah.
Meta meaning beyond.
Yeah.
So beyond human. Developing our individual superpowers, you know, our gifts, really acknowledging ourselves as these divine beings incarnated in a human body who can access consciousness and access the powers of the universe for some pretty extraordinary things. And most of that in the way we are able to tap into our own sovereignty and self-healing. You know, the 13th archetype is the sovereign being, the metahuman. And so and 13 is also connected to, as you said, as Christ consciousness.
Brilliant. This is brilliant, honestly.
So Jesus had 12 disciples.
Yeah.
King Arthur had 12 Knights of the Round Table. What did Jesus and King Arthur represent as the 13th to that 12th? The master.
Of course.
So 13 brings in the mastery or the master. So it's not a completion at 12 and a restart at 1 anymore. It's going beyond. It's stepping up and embracing the number 13, which is also the goddess number, right? Yeah. And embracing our Christhood or our mastery. So Spirit began to talk to me very deeply about how we were going to start emerging into our metahuman consciousness through embracing our mastery and embracing the number 13. And most people know 13 and, you know, in some traditions is bad luck, whatever. Yeah. We're all over that now. We're all over like, that's not true. None of that's true, right? 13 is a very powerful and auspicious number. Not only is it the goddess number, the number of the moon cycles in a year, the number of shells on a sea turtle's back, and sea turtles are representative of mother energy. Okay, there's 13 spaces on their backs. 13 is also the number of embracing our mastery and our Christ consciousness. So we have this 13th energy center that is has been opening up, whether you know it or not. You got one. Yeah. Everybody's got one. Yeah. And as we continue to evolve and grow, our 13th energy center is beginning to open up and expand and allow us to move deeper into our own personal sovereignty and mastery. So the location of the 13th chakra is right here between the heart and the solar plexus. Yeah. That's the center of the body. And I'm not going to give away too much information today because, you know, I've got this class coming up. You guys, I have so much more layers to give you around sacred soul chakra and how magnificently the universe has orchestrated our energy centers in alignment with sacred geometry. And for anybody who knows me, they know sacred geometry is my life. I have a clothing company, a sacred geometry clothing company, and I micronize crystals into dust. And I have these, you've got one of my shirts on today.
I have.
And I have been kind of given the task to bring sacred geometry out to the collective in a really simplified way, because nothing esoteric has to be complicated. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand the basics of sacred geometry and to utilize it and to bring it into your world and have fun with it and create with it like, you know, like the ancients did. Every sacred site, temple, mosque, Freemasons all utilize sacred geometry because the ancients understand the power of numbers and the power of intentionally utilizing shapes and patterns for creation. That information belongs to everybody. That power belongs to all of us, not some of us, to every single one of us. The shapes are all transcendental, and I have the heart chakra on today. That's what I'm wearing today. Sacred geometry belongs to every single one of us. And I allow people to understand and utilize the concepts in a very easy, understandable way. Because if you can't explain something simply, if you can't break it down and tell it to a kindergartner,
Yeah.
you don't really understand it. So you can go take sacred geometry teachings and you can get all the heady stuff about, what all the lines mean and all the parallel, or you can just know, okay, if I'm using the tetrahedron, that's the element of fire. I'm going to amplify energy up like a pyramid.
Sounds great to me.
It's really that simple.
But that's what Einstein said: is if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. And my thing again is like yours. It's simplifying the complexity of all these teachings, really. And my big thing is about taking actions and grounding this information that comes in. Because I think, I got lost for years in my head with all the information coming in.
Right.
But I wasn't really grounded it, you see. And there was and once I learned is that once you get a bit of information, if you take a step to ground it, then you actually evolve then, rather than revolving with just the information that's coming in. So to me, everything's become simple and taking steps to actually bring it into your life. That to me is the manifestation of when you bring all that stuff from heaven and you bring it down to earth, like bridging the gap or the paradoxes. And, that's how we evolve.
Yeah, just the knowledge enough just to have it in your brain is not enough.
No.
Learning to embody it and use it in a practical way in your life, that's the benefit. It doesn't do any good just to have like the knowledge and the left brain workings of it. It's bringing it in a practical way and something that people can actually utilize out in the world in their lives to make them better.
I got, I had to go through hell like probably you did, to sort of, as you say, due diligence really, and go through some sort of quite tough times to start to understand this at depth. But, without sort of prying into any personal things, were you born with this? This is a question that Todd asks everybody.
I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Yeah,
so don't worry about it. Lay it on me.
So really, to me,
no, I was not born with it.
No. And so when did it sort of start to activate in you?
So I had my awakening what I consider to be kind of late in life. I was in my late 30s. I'm 87 now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that though sometimes that ancient. I had a very abrupt awakening, but spirit tries to talk to you for a long time before you awaken. It seems, and after I awakened, I was like, oh my God, I was getting the shoulder taps for so long and I didn't get it. Like, we're all in a time lock. And when that timer goes off, that's when you have no choice. Like you got to go. And so for most of us, after we've had our awakening, we can look back in life and we can kind of connect the dots. But until that time lock goes off, and this is why it can be really frustrating for some of us when we see people around us who maybe haven't awakened, or, our family members or our friends, and we're here and they don't understand us. And so it's really important to know that every soul is on its own path and time lock. Those time locks within each of us are designed to go off when it's time for them to go off and not before.
Yeah.
And for much of humanity, those time locks are going off and off and off. But there's going to be a lot of beings on this planet during this time as we go through ascension. Their time locks aren't going to go off in this lifetime. It's just not their soul path.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. Doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong. It's just not in their soul design to happen in this lifetime. And that's okay. We really need to understand and honor that everybody on this planet is on their own pathway back to God, and they're all the right pathway. Ascension doesn't mean some get to go and some don't get to go. It simply means we're going in waves.
Yeah.
Some are going to go sooner, some are going to go later. It just depends on the soul path, depends on their soul path. And so as we see these waves of the people awakening and ripple affecting, you know, we're awakened beings, we're ripple affecting. That's the best thing you can do, is just decide to be the ripple effect, honor where everybody else is at, and you will magnetize people towards you just by being that. We don't have to shout it from the rooftops. We don't have to cram it down people's throats, and we shouldn't. We don't have to fight the good fight with anybody. Let people be where they're at. Honor them, enjoy them where they're at. You know, my family is not really awakened. And I have had to learn through my process of getting on my soapbox, you know, and talking about all the things and denouncing my Catholic religion. I have had to decide, because it didn't help my family, didn't help our relationship, to love them and meet them where they are at and enjoy them for exactly who they are for as long as I get to spend, you know, as long as I have with my parents left on this earth. I'm not going to make it about religion. I'm not going to make it about spirituality or politics. I'm going to make it about enjoying my family and being with them. And the more I have grown into accepting myself and being confident in myself and you know, embracing myself, the more I can let all that. It's really about us accepting ourselves. If you don't feel like you're accepted by other people, you might look at, are you really in acceptance of who you are? Do you really have self-love? Do you really have self-worth? Like, if we're really confident who we are, what we believe, and how we're showing up in life, the rest of it, the world will meet you where it's at. And it doesn't matter what other people around us are thinking. Like, let them have it. Like, let them do their karma, their dharma, their soul path without trying to interfere. So the answer to their question is no. I was absolutely not born awake. And when I started to have my awakening, you know, for many years before that, I was going to see a girlfriend who was a psychic, and I would go to see her for silly stuff. Her name was Amy Mace. And I would go to see her for boyfriend problems and all this kind of thing, because I was aware of a spirit world, you know, but I didn't ever count myself among anybody who would be doing this kind of work. So she helped me for many years. And when I went through my awakening at the end of December in 2004, I was watching a show on Oprah. And Oprah was doing a show on women all around the world who are age 30 and what their life was like. And I was a little older than 30. I was in my late 30s then. I had a baby, 2 other kids, you know, new husband, living in the suburbs, driving a minivan, thinking that was my life. That was going to be my life. And I was watching this show just after Christmas on Oprah. And she was interviewing these women. And I had an experience that I had never had before. As she would talk to the women in Rwanda or Cuba or wherever, and some of them had lives similar to mine. Most of them had lives that were very, very different than mine. They were not living in the suburbs, driving a minivan. I broke down in tears as she interviewed these women. I saw myself in their eyes. As I listened to their stories, and some of them had terribly tragic stories, I was that woman. I sat through that entire show in bald. I had never had any kind of an experience like that before, not even with my good girlfriends or my sisters. But suddenly I knew that I was that woman and she was me. And I was a wreck the entire show. And for days afterwards, I couldn't get them out of my head. It was my first experience with the divine feminine and with oneness and the goddess energy. And it blew everything open for me. Like, it just completely blew my circuits. I cried for days afterwards. I was crying to my husband. I was like, these women on Oprah, I can't get... And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what are you talking about? Why is this such a problem for you? And it just blew me wide open. It blew my heart wide open. And then right after the first of the year, a friend of mine suggested that I read Dr. Wayne Dyer's Power of Intention. And it was the first time in my Catholic life. And I wasn't a good Catholic. I didn't really go to, it was just all I knew. That's all I knew was Catholic. So started reading about Goddess Source, the law of attraction, vibration, frequency. And I would read his book and I'd read some chapters and I'd go, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? And I would come out of my body and I would have all these like weird feelings, and then I couldn't leave the book alone at the same time.
I know.
So I was hearing my name called in the middle of the night. My guides were waking me up and I was going through this really dramatic experience of what the fuck? And my husband was like, I don't even know what to do with you. What's that? Because I was starting to speak this different language that was not Catholic, was not Republican Catholic like we were all used to. I was going to meditation classes. I went back and saw my friend Amy, and I sat down in front of her in about the middle of January 2005. And I started to cry. And I said, I don't know what's happening to me. I saw this show up on Oprah. There was this woman, I'm reading this book, and I think I'm losing my mind. And she went, oh, congratulations. You've woken up. I've been waiting years for this. And I went, put me back to sleep. And she went, oh, no. Once you awaken, it doesn't stop. And, here's what you're here to do. You're here to be more than a mother and a wife. And you're going to do this and lead drum circles. And you start teaching this. And I stood there with my jaw dropped. Because I'm like, not this girl. And at the same time, we went through that process and she was helping me put language or put words to what I was experiencing and laying out my future for me. I knew for the first time in my life, I also went, oh my God, I have a purpose.
Marvelous.
I have purpose. Oh my God.
It's so marvelous this, because it confirms everything that I've gone through as well, which was similar, but the name calling in the middle of the night, the out of body experiences, all the feelings, all the vibrations, all the movements, so again, I didn't have a clue, because the first half of my life was basically science. It was just left brained,
right.
And all this stuff was trying to break out, but I always thought I was going mad when this stuff was coming out. So I drank a lot, and then the drink got hold of me, and then it took me really almost to my end point, if you like. And it was in that moment that the voice said to me, son, you shouldn't have signed up for this if you can't take a joke, right? And it was almost like I was like in gross self-pity and everything else. And there was this voice laughing at me to say, son, you actually asked for this. So turn around and we will show you one step at a time what your purpose and your function is here, And I know that, Ameera, like you, I know that I'm being driven from a deep level, from my soul. And something else, I've had a really big, strong link with ancient Egypt, as many of us have, particularly Imhotep, right? Who was, he was basically a vibrational medicine specialist, and also sacred geometry. So I get guided from that vibration. But the other vibration that guides me a lot is the Osiris energy as well. So sometimes when the goddess is there, I get the Osiris link, almost as if it's a protector type energy for the feminine as well, So all these things are sort of happening. And with the Osiris, I get a very black dragon with me as well. And there's a lot of power that comes in with that as well. So these are some of the things that I'm learning to sort of, because I used to be an angry swine, I couldn't bear anybody's thoughts. And I used to be sort of an egomaniac, basically, which hasn't changed much, but I'm onto it more than I ever was.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of learning how to allow all these energies to change me, rather than getting in the way and misdirecting it,
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that makes any sense to you at all.
Oh, it does. It takes a tremendous amount of trust and surrender. And the many layers of ego that show up in a multitude of different ways, it really takes an offering up of that and a big dose of humility to admit, I really don't know what's going on. I don't know. I can't control this. I'm not driving the bus, because, the ego wants to drive the bus and be in charge, and just go into what I call a soul-led life, where we are being asked to be completely spirit-driven and led by our soul.
Yeah.
because the soul has an agenda. We
Yeah.
have an agenda, but the soul has a stronger agenda that won't be denied anymore. And if we try and deny it or reject it,
Mhm.
bad things happen.
Yeah. No,
It gets really hard. Life
Yeah.
gets really hard if we try
I'm
to
right.
deny the
I'm right
call.
with you. I'm right with you on that, right
Like-
with you, because, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So my thing is, I've learned that any emotional disturbance is an ego block, basically,
Yeah.
and that's where I feel. So if I feel emotionally disturbed, rather than reacting and going with it, which is an ego drive, I'm now able, most of the time now, to feel the discomfort coming in. So I can feel it coming in early on now, and I can then take a step back, and then I ask my soul or spirit, what is this that you're trying to show me here? So that's become my life, really, is to tune in to my breathing and to my emotional states. And when I feel a change in vibration, to a sort of negative close down, I can step back then and just ask, please show me how you're trying to, what's the lesson in this for me? What are you showing me? What's the direction you want me to go in? So I surrendered absolutely about 28 years ago. And since then, I've tried my best just to keep out of the way and to listen very deeply to the guidance that I'm getting. So I more or less sort of understand what you're saying, really.
Right. Well, and anything that we think our ego thinks we need to hang on to or be doing that is causing resistance, and it's an energy drain, and it's difficult and challenging. Those are one of those things that might be soul led, not be soul led. That we need to look at, okay, if this is draining my energy so hard and it's so difficult and I'm clinging to it, is this something I'm really supposed to carry with me? Yeah. And it's that moment of asking spirit, or maybe surrender and releasing it and opening up the space and admitting, okay, perhaps this is over. Perhaps this time in my life, this relationship, this whatever I'm working on, perhaps it's time to let that go, and allowing our ego to let go of it. Spirit will now come right in and plop it right in your lap, something that is in alignment with your soul.
Yeah.
And it takes a very brave being to trust spirit that deeply, because, the root chakra energy, the survival, the material, that is so hardwired into us. And moving from that surviving energy to a thriving energy, which means we have to completely trust God.
Yeah.
We have to trust God with everything that's happening out in the world right now. Everything. If you think there's a virus out there that's going to take you down, or if you think that, this theory or that theory or whatever is, if you insert that fear into your hologram, into your aura, and work through that, then, guess what? Yeah. Life's going to be a lot harder. And this is also, again, part of trusting soul path. And I'm not, I think you're aware that I was just asked to do my own online radio talk show on Transformation Talk Radio. Yeah. I've just started Tales from the More World, which is going to be my own online show twice a month. And one of my main goal for being on that show, for hosting that show, is to help people into the safety net of God, where there is only safety. There will be people who will be departing this planet in mass droves as we go on, because it's part of their soul contract. Yeah. It's part of their soul agreement. And when we understand soul groups, soul families, karma, dharma, soul contracts, we begin to understand that we are not in control, that the soul is in control, and there are things that are going to happen simply because it's in that soul's agreement with God or their soul group for it to happen. And we're eternal beings. Yeah. There's no death. Okay, there is no death. One of the misconceptions of Atlantis is that it was a failure, that it was this great experiment that was a failure and created this downfall of all humankind. And there's a lot of us hold the trauma, the guilt, the shame, and even the anger for being involved in one or more of the rise and fallings of Atlantis. And I'm really trying to teach people that Atlantis was an experiment that all of us who were there, and if you're on this planet right now, you're in Atlantis at one point, and probably Lemuria too. We all agreed to be there and take part in this experiment to see if fifth dimensional consciousness beings could retain their connection to God in a third dimensional body. It was an experiment. And when you have an experiment, you have to insert a variable.
Absolutely.
Something to challenge the experiment, right? The variable we all agreed to before we came was ego, or what we'd call the darkness. Something to challenge the ego, the five sensory beings that we were, something to challenge that, to see if we could hang on to our fifth dimensional connection to God. And ultimately we didn't. Experiment was canceled. Atlantis came down, but it was nobody's fault. No, it was not due to us not being good enough, or there's no blame. The ego was the darkness was pre-planned and inserted, and we all knew before we came it was going to happen. And we all knew if the experiment ended, it was okay because we were eternal beings. We were going to transition to the next experiment, but when Atlantis fell, we forgot that.
No, I'm with you on this. I understand what you're saying. I mean, experiments are supposed to be objective anyway, aren't
Yes.
they? You know, so
Yes.
we can be objective about our subjectivity, and that way we learn as well.
Yes.
So I see that clearly. I believe that the light, the true light, is to be found in the belly of the beast, or the darkness. And I also feel that the darkness, the deep darkness, represents the mother's womb as well. So there's all these, you know, the light comes out of the womb and stuff, you know. And I love this. And in reading up about you, I also saw that you were linked and connected to the Archangel Metatron. Me too.
Okay.
For a long, long time, you know, and that happened to me in Glastonbury about 25 years ago, where I went into a Metatronic healing chamber, and I had my soul retuned, and now it's going better than my car now, you know. But I sat for an hour in a pyramid of light, but also they played different sounds as well. And when I came out, I got another sort of, I was transformed again in a different way, and was guided then to look at the subtle anatomy of the man, the human being. So that's where I'm up to now, is the subtle anatomy, the quantum fields, and a field that they've led me into is something called chromatooptogenetics, and it's the use of vibration and sound and light, but particularly for pregnant women as well.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, because I've seemed to be drawn towards helping pregnant mums and also newborn babies as well, because I think that they are coming through clean. I do feel that they will heal the nations, they will heal the world.
Yes.
But it's trying to get across right from an early age the use of sound and light and nurturing, just to keep them clean.
And that's the Atlantean way.
Right. Well, there you go. So
that is the Atlantean way.
I must be getting sorted. So on the note, have you got anything to say about Metatron at all? Because I also work with his twin brother, Sandalphon.
Yes.
You know, because he's a twin. And again, Metatron to me is Atlantean, and Sandalphon is Lemurian. And, you know, so well they are. Fair enough. So, and when I get Sandalphon, you see, I've got the big shivers going up my spine now. But Sandalphon always comes to me as a great big reddy brown sort of winged wise owl type creature. And what it does is it enfolds me in its wings. Now, I always, when I picture Metatron, or when the image comes to me, I always get a great big strong black massive bat-like creature, you know. And when I look at images of Metatron on the on Google and stuff, it's always like a white sort a white fluffy thing, but not in my image. It's not, you know. So anything to say about that?
He's definitely not white and fluffy. Like he'll come through to everybody a little differently. For me, he comes through like a wise grandfather.
Right.
He is like this big, beautiful, bright. And I have his, this is called the Tools for Evolution. This is the Metatron energy in there. I have Metatron's cube tattooed. My entire back is Metatron's cube.
Right.
When I started working with Metatron maybe 7 or 8 years ago, you know, and he came to me, and I started learning about Metatron's cube because sacred geometry was so fascinating to me, and teaching classes and whatnot. You know, he said to me before I moved to Kauai from Portland. I've been here a little over 4 years. He said, I want you to tattoo your back. I want you to put my cube, my geometry on your back. And I was like, my whole back? That's going to hurt. He's like, yep, trust me. You don't say no to an archangel, right?
No, right.
And he's like, trust me, you'll find out later. So I made this, it's not just Metatron's cube. It's this whole image of all the elements in there, and dolphins in the middle. And I made this whole thing on my back, this whole big, beautiful tattoo. And he's like, trust me, you'll find out later. So a couple of years later, I moved to Kauai, and I purchased this Sacred Geometry clothing company. And he's like, see, you are going to bring sacred geometry out to the world on a major scale through beautiful clothing. People don't even have to know what they're buying. Yeah. Crystals go in the clothes. I screen print on organic bamboo, and I ship all over the world. And people, because sacred geometry is projective. It's only 3 things in the world that are projective. Everything else is reflective.
Okay.
Light bulbs are projective. Rudraksha seeds, which are the Hindu mala beads.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rudraksha seeds, and there's one Rudraksha, one sacred forest in North America, which happens to be on Kauai.
Right.
There's a beautiful sacred forest adjacent to the Hindu temple. Rudraksha seeds are also projective. They're Sanskrit malas. Sacred geometry is projective. So when you wear it in your energy field, not only does it help heal you, it projects out to everybody you come in contact with. So sacred geometry is a really powerful gift, sustenance that we can bring into our field that will also help other people. So Metatron, my mentor, teacher, I don't call myself a channel of Metatron, but he does bring me messages and help me. He was the architect of Atlantis.
Right.
Metatron was the primary architect of Atlantis and helped plan the society in accordance with sacred geometry. And I'm going to do a segment on Tales from the Mer World about that also, and talk a little bit more about that. So check this. We have 13 chakras in our energy field. Mm-hmm. How many spheres are in Metatron's cube?
Don't know.
13.
Oh, okay.
We are the geometry.
Right.
Okay, and when he started talking, and I'm going to talk about this more in my class, about the correlation between Metatron's cube, sacred geometry, and us as multidimensional beings, and how that all correlates. Like these secrets that aren't supposed to be secrets anymore, they're actually connecting us to our meta-humanness. They're like telling us how it works. This is how we're meta-humans. This is what's been hidden in plain sight from you that you now get to know and acknowledge and embody.
Marvelous, because I like to go back to the Christ Center and the 12 cranial nerves, you know, the 12 cranial nerves, and then the 12 meridians linked to those,
yep.
You know, and we've talked about the 12 tribes, but I think that the 12 tribulations as well, to go back to Catholicism and the 12 stations of the cross,
yes,
they're almost like testing points, aren't they, to me?
Yes.
Where we walk through fear. And as we walk through fear, I keep getting the upturned crown with 12 jewels on it, right? Because the crown of thorns then flips up, right, to the jeweled crown then. And then I get all the stuff about King Arthur comes in with that then. And then so I'm sort of linked into this, but it's all being pieced together for me. Because what I tend to do now is I take my head off and throw it away as far as I can. Right.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the information then comes up rather than me having to think about it really. So it's coming to me slowly but surely, you know. It's fascinating this. What was I going to say? You know, you mentioned your children. Do your children, are they into this? Do you see your kids and stuff like that?
Well, you know, it was so funny because when they were teenagers and I was going through this massive awakening, of course, they were like, do not stage while my friends are around, Mom. Don't bring any of that weird voodoo. Don't be doing that around my friends, right? And it, you know, it just wasn't on their radar. to embrace it at all. Astrology, none of it, because they were teenagers. But as they've gotten older, and my 2 older kids are in their 20s, you know, they have stepped, they ask me a lot of questions. They're a little bit more open-minded about, you know, my spirituality and the way I have changed the way they look at life simply because of what I taught them during those years that they didn't want to pay attention to, that they are now learning, you know, mom wasn't so crazy after all. And we have these great conversations. And they're, you know, they're become very much more in tune to, you know, all esoteric concepts. And I kind of give them little tidbits about the world and changes in the world. But the really cool thing is I have a 16-year-old son also who lives in Indiana with his dad. And when he went to live with his dad, when I moved to Kauai when he was 12, none of this stuff was even on him. He didn't want to talk to any about it with me. Well, now I'm having conversations on the phone with him, and he's bringing stuff up. Like he's, you know, he watches Joe Rogan, and he knows about, you know, MK Ultra, and he's like going through his own awakening, and he's remembering, oh yeah, mom used to talk about this stuff. Can't really talk to my dad about it, but I can call my mom. And we have these really great conversations around not so much spirituality, because he's not quite there, but he understands that the world as a whole, like there's so much more going on in the multiverse than, you know, than what he has thought previously. So again, everybody comes into their own awakening. Their time lock opens if it's supposed to open, when it's supposed to. We don't have to do anything but be the presence. Be available, be open.
So is there a way then to fast track ascension?
Well, oh boy, that's a tricky question. I think everybody wants to fast track ascension. We'd all like to be able to do that. However, the work, the due diligence, the not spiritual bypassing, and the going through the muck and maybe even a dark night of the soul, that's the only way through is through. That's it. Yeah. That's the only way through. Backwards to go forwards. Not looking at it as linear, looking at it as a spiral, embracing that, accepting that, and knowing that through the journey, our ego is the only thing that's going to have a shit fit.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we have to revisit things over and over and over again. However, having said that, I do believe the new children that are coming in are not going to go through the same traumatic awakening experiences and healings that we had to, because we have paved the way for them. You know, the early indigos, the first and second waivers that you and I are a part of, we have really paved the way for these new children, for these third and fourth waves to come through, these golden children, and actually be able to be here. Yeah. Their vibration is so much higher, and really a lot of what we owe ascension to is these children who've been incarnating over the last 20 years. You know, they call them the crystal children or whatever. We really owe it to them for we open up the space, and they came in and they anchor the vibration, and their vibration is what's helping us to heal. But we have to continue to do our work, and I think it's a lifelong thing. It's a lifelong thing. And then the next generations of little ones who are coming in, you know, we want to birth a new earth. That comes with a price. Yeah. That comes with sacrifice, and that comes with letting go. I call it creative destruction. Yeah. The way of God in life, create, destroy, recreate. We're in the destruction phase of that now, just like we were in Atlantis. We have to allow it to come down, to be dismantled, for the new creation to come in place. And if that's what we really want, a new earth, we have to not fight what's trying to dissolve and cling to what's over, so that and remember that we're eternal beings. Yeah. Remember that we are souls incarnate, and allow the new earth to arise through all the different means that kind of scare us a little bit. This is a water planet. Yeah. This was originally a water planet. when the mer came, and I am an incarnated mer being, water came from outer space. The mer beings fell with the water. We came to Earth with the original element, water. This whole planet, scientifically proven, was water. Okay, we are going back to becoming a mostly water planet. I don't mean that's going to happen tomorrow or next week, but it is trying to happen over time because the creative destruction is trying to reset the template and the blueprint to heaven on earth and the divinity of this planet, the purity of this planet. Okay, so that evolution of going back to becoming a water planet is trying to happen, which means when we see some things happen, when we see the creative destruction happen and some land masses fall, that's all part of the divine plan that we all chose to take part of. That's all part of the experiment that we all agreed to. And many of us who leave this body during our time will come back at some point and get to enjoy what we tried to create.
I'm right with you on all this. And the water, I'm a Pisces myself. I'm
Me
65.
too.
Yeah, I'm a 65 years of age on the 19th of March, which is basically the end of the cycle, you know, so there's probably no coincidences in that, you know.
Right.
But I feel like I'm sort of re-youthing and rejuvenating now because I feel more emotionally calm, more clear-minded. And also I do lots of exercise and things as well because movements and movement therapies have become very important to me. I'm a qualified remedial massage therapist. I practice Tai Chi and I try and help others as well. But what's become very important in my life is mindful breathing and the coherence of breathing, because Buddha was reputed to have said that if you want to know anything, he talks like this in a Scouse, you know, voice, Liverpudlian voice. He said, if you really want to focus on something, just become aware of your breathing. You know, and that's what I try and help people with now is to rather than expect and look outwards, is to turn inwards and to start focusing on their breathing. And that then enhances their body sensitivity and their awareness back to themselves, you know. So
presence.
And that's what I'm trying to do is true freedom is the absence of presence, right? No, it's the, you know, and what I'm saying is to be absent in presence is to be disconnected really from looking outwards and being more involved with inner space really and stuff. So, you know, we're definitely on the same wavelength in lots of ways. But the water thing as well is, I really believe that the use of sound and light and vibration, I think that that's what creates the different shapes and the changes of water, you know, and I call that the etheric formative forces. And that's what I'm trying to get to is the amniotic fluid of the mum, right? You know, can be influenced so much by the correct frequencies of both sound and light, you know.
I think you did that in Atlantis. I think that you were the guy, the head high priest who came to Atlantis specifically to attune pregnant women with those frequencies. That was your job.
I'll accept that and just keep opening up for more of this information to come through.
Oh, we should do a past life regression sometime. You know, I'm a past life regression therapist, right?
Yeah. We'll have a go at that then one day.
Well, if you know, I would be happy to gift you a session if you feel like you want to explore that, Dr. Joe, because I think that it will help. That's how I retrieved most of my information and recovered a lot of my gifts is through past life regression and going back into Atlantis, back to the Mer world and back to the healing caverns and like remembering what I did and how I did it. So, I mean, I'd be happy to gift you a session if you want to go in and check that out. Woo,
I'll take you up on that as soon as possible. Okay.
And it's such a thrill for me to do, you know, to host sessions like that too. I learn so much.
Brilliant. And the other thing I got when we were talking is the link between Metatron and the Imhotep high priest that I was talking about in Egyptians, because he was the architect of the first temples, you see.
Right.
They as you know, they were set up as sound chambers and frequency chambers.
Right. Well, and you know, the Atlanteans, many of them who escaped went to Egypt.
Oh, right. Well, there you
The
go.
ones who escaped, who left before the fall, who knew they were coming, many of them went and resettled in Egypt and brought the technology there. So you're right on target with that.
Brilliant. In the last couple of minutes that we've got, Ameera, yoga. Where are you up to with yoga? Are you a yoga practitioner?
Oh yeah, I'm an 11-year Bikram yoga student. I go 4 or 5 days a week. My yoga practice is a center point to my ability to stay present and calm. And it's a 105-degree room, and on Kauai, we're like 80-90% humidity. So if you can learn to stay calm and not tap into your fight or flight, in that type of environment for 90 minutes, you can kind of conquer anything, is the idea behind it. That your breath, and again, you're right, it's the breathing that controls the nervous system and the fight or flight. And it all, all the chaos is up here.
Absolutely.
It's not really in here. It's just,
No.
it's all the mind over matter. So yes, yoga for me is a huge, tremendous part of my life.
Well, I do the other way.
Health.
I do the Wim Hof stuff, the ice cold stuff. Yeah.
I just talked about that on Todd's show a couple of weeks ago. I've just gotten into that too. Yeah. Oh my God, will that change your life?
Yeah. So, well, it does, doesn't it? And that's the thing is, if you can stay, as you've just said, emotionally detached from the reactivity of the fight and flight, then that to me is the detachment that brings with it the calmness and the freedom to make correct decisions. And that's what I'm trying to help people with is to feel the emotional reaction coming in, breathing it away, stepping back and practicing that really to create space to make wiser and more healthy decisions.
Right, because when we're calm and present, that's when we can make decisions that are in alignment with our soul and not in alignment with our fear.
Exactly. Oh, this has been absolutely fantastic. It's consolidated and confirmed such a lot of the stuff that's coming to me, and it is fascinating. And I tend to live by the principle of one day at a time. And like you said, most of the time I've got absolutely no idea at all what's happening. I just trust that whatever I need to do will just emerge in sort of globules, right? And I'll be shown, turn left, Joe, and take this action, So that's where I'm up to. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I will take you up.
Here. Thank you.
I will take you up on that regression thing soon.
Okay, good.
And so before you go, so how can people sort of get in touch with you and Wisdom Word and all that sort of thing? Will you put that up?
I will, and I'm going to put a clothing discount code on my website. Dr. Joe 20, all in capitals, DRJOE 20. If you go to wisdomwear.org, that's my clothing, or ameerabeth.com, you can get there too. And pick out some, I'll put everything on my shop, 20% off, all clothing, everything, till the end of the month with that code. It's a discount code, Dr. Joe 20. ameerabeth.com, wisdomwear.org is how you can find me, or hit me up for the course that I'm going to do on Sunday. Activating your 13 chocolate template, past life regression therapy, intuitive readings. I do all the cool things, and retreats on Kauai. You guys want to come out to Kauai? I'm going to do a retreat in conjunction with Good Vibes Travel out of Portland, Oregon, May 20th through 26th. So if you guys want to come and let me take you around to some epic places on the island, like just be in this energy, swim in the ocean, go to the cool places, that's something you can look at doing too.
It looks marvelous. Ameera Beth, thank you so much indeed. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Dr. Joe, and thank you for allowing me to express myself. Aloha.
Aloha. Pleasure. Bye-bye.